Okay, we are going to get started. We are so very lucky to have two wonderful presenters today. And just before we get started, just a quick announcement. If you need closed captioning, go ahead and turn those on. And this will be recorded and put on our social media and sent out in an email. So if you need to refer back to this, you totally can. Or if there's someone you know who could benefit from it, share it away. Um, so before we get started, I want to introduce our two presenters. So today we have two special guests coming to us from beautiful Richmond, Virginia. Judy Alonza is a development specialist with expertise and special interests in working with infants and children who are deaf and hard of hearing. Valerie James Abbott is a parent of a child with late onset hearing loss and a certified early intervention case manager. They both work for Infant and Toddler Connection, which is Virginia's early intervention system, and they have both served as chairs of the Virginia Early Hearing Detection and Intervention Advisory Committee. Both Judy and Valerie have their hands in many other local and state level initiatives aimed at finding and supporting young children who are deaf and hard of hearing. And today, they'll share some information they've uncovered about the impact and role siblings of DHH children have in language and development at home. So we'll turn the time over to Judy and Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And greetings from very warm, sunny Virginia. Welcome to Promoting the Power of Siblings for Natural Language Development. Judy and I first presented this last year at the National EDDI Conference, and we've had a few invitations to bring it to other states. So thank you for inviting us to Utah. This is a 30-minute presentation, so we are going to be jumping in and moving quickly. We do request that if you have any comments or questions, feel free to use the chat to capture them. And then towards the end, we'll answer as many as we can. So let's get started. This is us. Thank you for that warm introduction earlier. And our hope is that everyone will walk away with a different understanding of how siblings participate in language development and how they don't. We're hoping to help you identify a couple new strategies and to think through how siblings play different roles in different family dynamics and cultures.
So let's get started. Although the title of our presentation is about siblings, we want you to know that it's much more than just an older or younger brother or sister. Because at any time in the day, other family members or frequent visitors in the home will function in that sibling role, that traditional sibling role. So let's define a few of the members of that dream team of siblings. Well, the obvious is that older brothers or younger sisters or older sisters and younger brothers. Also cousins that may be at the home during the day or that may actually live with the family. Those neighborhood friends that are over often. Those arranged play dates with friends from child cares or preschools. Then there's the grandparents, that very valuable tool, not to leave out aunt and uncles. And then there's probably more that we haven't even included on this list. But what we want you to remember is this picture. And this is our dream list as we talk today. This is our target group, more than just other children in the home. So the one thing that we could probably agree on as early interventionist is for any child in early intervention and the primary caregiver, the pressure that we put on them is just very real. So when a family starts with their journey with their child with hearing loss, we give them so much information in the beginning. We give the primary giver that we need them to have the family and them continually have meaningful engagement with their child, and that will be tantamount to his or her success in acquiring language. And then we stress that they must make their home and lifestyle language rich all day long. We want them to talk through their daily routine or narrate their day, all of your activities, all of your errands. Sometimes you might have to set up that right language learning environment that may not fall naturally within your day, so we can hit those targets for language acquisition. And then we want you to set up times for your child to interact with you or imitate those family models that all of the others in the home are providing within that very, very busy day. There is so much more. This is a short list. But what are we doing to all your families, all of these families that are very new to this journey or they're first-time parents?
So I think it's important to remember, all of us that are parents, is that while we're trying to create this language-rich environment and talking through our routines and all these new strategies, that we're still trying to maintain a home, that we're still trying to hold a job, in some cases 2 jobs, juggling sick kids, juggling doctor appointments. So the expectation is on top of all of these already stressful things.
So, a little backstory. I was the early interventionist for Valerie's daughter, who is now in college, as she was diagnosed with a hearing loss, bilateral hearing loss. So when she first approached me to share how much including her older daughter in therapy with her child with hearing loss made a huge impact on her daughter's language acquisition. But as an early interventionist, including family and extended family is just a natural part of our job. But what I learned from looking at this closely, and that I and others could do so much more. Interestingly, though, research was kind of all over the place as to the benefits of there being siblings in the home. So first, there was a lot of research that tells us having siblings does increase the language and communication skills for children with language delays. That the older siblings and sometimes younger siblings are good role models and good language models, and that there is always consistent social interaction built into the home. I would also add that, as an aside, we did see a lot of information that indicated the research. Female older siblings showed more positive outcomes over male siblings. But then there's also research that says children do not do as well if they have siblings in the home. And the reasons being, parents have more time and attention to devote to that first child or only child and address their language goals. That they have more resources and there are more opportunities available with only one child. And then also, and we know this as early interventionists, that when there are multiple children in the home, sometimes older children will talk for that younger child who is a new language learner. But I did find really interesting one particular study out of Taiwan, and it was done over a very long period of time, and it assessed the association between siblings' presence and changes in language trajectories of children with developmental and language delays before reaching school age. So that birth defy population. This was done, like I said, for a number of years. And the result of that more in-depth study concluded that having siblings does not necessarily positively associate with improved language development in children with language delays. But, and there was a but, sometimes this relationship just needs to be actively modulated. So we need to promote it. We need to make it happen and work for us. The findings in most all of the research we noted did state that when we can promote sibling-mediated interventions and include siblings as active treatment implementers, rather than passive bystanders or passive participants, there are improved and more positive language outcomes. It was noted often that a sensitive and caring sibling that is provided the right resources can also add another valuable participant to the child's language development. And then overall, there are improved outcomes for the child when extended siblings, family members become part of this language learning process. So even though the conclusion of this study said it doesn't necessarily mean improved language scores, when we have them included as active treatment implementers, it does improve their language outcomes.
And when we were doing this research, or I should say Judy was doing this research, and she came back to me with it, I was shocked because in our family, we did see pretty obviously how an older sibling influenced our daughter's language acquisition. And so I therefore assumed with my one example that that's how it works in all families, and to come to find out that it needs to be a bit more intentional than that. So Judy, you talk about this sensitive, caring sibling, and really that's what we need to cultivate to maximize this role modeling. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So we want to take advantage of the others in the home. And we want you to remember that picture of that dream team. So remember, it doesn't just mean children, other children, older, younger. It can be that neighbor next door who comes to play every day with your older son. So it can be anybody. And what we're doing is making them part of the language learning process for that child. So first we need to understand and get to know our extended sibling group to be that active treatment implementers. So first we want to get to know them. Like, what is their role in the family? Are they the cousin? Are they the child next door? Are they the older brother? What is the personality like? This is for the early interventions to really dig into. Are they easily excited over activities? Are they the serious type? Do they like to be silly? What are some of their interests? Art, Barbie dolls, cars. Auntie loves reading and has lots of books. Grandpa likes to work on his pickup truck. What is their language level? For the adults, pretty well we know that, like their literacy skills, but the younger ones and sometimes the olders are beginning to read. Can they just even name pictures in a book and point to pictures? Big help for that language learner. And what are their other strengths and weaknesses? Most importantly, we need to know the sibling member in order to leverage them as a language learning tool. And as we talked about in the beginning, that diverse sibling group may also be a parent, and they are an asset in this role as they become a pair play partner with a child in the way the primary caregiver may not feel that they are. So the goal is here to create a language model peer. Very important. But also that person steps in the same role the primary caregiver is trying to do with their child. So the therapist, your early interventionist, coaches mom, dad, grandma, that sibling, to help the child. Now, mom, dad, grandma will coach the sibling member to help the child. Now the coachee becomes the coach. This extension of using peers and siblings is especially helpful for children who may not be in a childcare setting as well. So we want to touch on some strategies. How do we promote that extended sibling group to assist with language learning? What are some of the ways primary caregiver can coach the sibling member to help the language learner? So having the primary caregiver model how to prompt language and give the sibling an opportunity to be the teacher. Sharing the target goal with that sibling member. For example, hey, today we're working on getting Sissy to use 2 words together to make a request. Then that sibling member knows the expectation of the language learner. Having that sibling help with teaching turn taking and play. Sometimes when we have siblings join in play, they get angry when the younger child doesn't understand how to take turns. Make that the goal with your sibling team. Reading or telling a story. Again, this is where that literacy level comes into play. But just naming pictures or making up a story is just as good, if not better, for the learner. I love singing songs together because it's a great way to work on language, giving more auditory information. But there's also always then that sibling team member may have a favorite song that they like, or the adult, and one that we hadn't thought of. Like to talk about what they notice with their siblings' language and let them pick a goal to work on. If that sibling member says, I can't understand what the child wants from the pantry, good goal to work on because he has identified it or she has identified it. Encourage the sibling to give positive feedback or models back to a child, that great going, I understood you. Great, because it empowers then that sibling team member to feel like they have a very important role. And I just love using simple recipes too with a target sound in mind to work on in cooking activities because everybody gets involved. Great joint attention.
So one of the things when we were talking about this presentation over a year ago was we remembered what was happening in our own family and the coaching that we were receiving. And a lot of it was all about this wait, watch, and count. If nothing else, count to 10. And that was because Brady was learning new skills, new auditory skills. She was learning new words and new phrases. And so what we were modeling was giving Brady time to respond after a question or statement was shared, giving her a chance to formulate what her response was going to be, watching her facial expressions to see, do we think that she understood the question? Do we think that she understood the statement? Looking at her body language, and if nothing else, counting to 10, just to pause to give her a chance to speak, because we as a family had not done that before.
So I just wanted to share something, one of my favorite documents, and this is, here it is blank, but I am also an early childhood special ed grad student instructor. And this is one of the tools I use for grad students who have never done therapy in the home. And this is what they used in learning how to approach services and early intervention in the home. And this is called a family guided routine-based intervention. And it's an approach for providing early intervention services within the child and family's natural environment during daily routines. And this is consistent with the legal mandates for Part C of IDEA and DEC recommended practices. Great form. And it can be found, the website is given at the end of our presentation. But for those of us in EI that have experience in providing services and coaching in the home, this is in our head. We know what we're doing. But for a new therapist, this helps them visualize what I want them to have on the ready to coach the parents. But in this case, I've started using this to fill out with that parent, choosing the routine that the family has identified as needing some help in the area. So now I want the parent to think of all of these things that the therapist is thinking, so they can then in turn help their family and their siblings. We identify the goals, what their needs are, and that becomes our target goals. We talk about the opportunities that can happen. Who are we going to include to be helpers? That's your facilitators. What kind of cues or prompts can the primary giver assist with some more prompts? And last of all, and most important, where do we hope that all of this lands at the end? Those are our contingencies. So what I hope when I give this to families now is that this serves as a mental picture eventually as the primary caregiver continues to include siblings as much as themselves. Instead of the new grad student using this guide to help them learn how to coach parents to promote language organically within their day, now the primary caregiver is that facilitator to the extended siblings in the home. As an early interventionist, and most providers know, we come up with a plan prior to the visit, but we are parent and child driven, and it rarely happens the way we might plan it before we go. And the plan just kind of goes out the window. But the goal is, with this visual, it just gives that family, like that grad student, the bigger picture of how we are trying to base our language acquisition. So, living that dream.
Let's talk about the leader of the pack, at least in our case.
Oh, wait.
Oh, is there one?
Go back. Oh, it came
Oh.
up. It's all right.
I wonder where that went.
So we're just going to talk real quick while this is up, and I will tell you. So what we're hoping is with using our sibling dream team, that what does it look like? We want the sibling team to be as much a part of therapy with a therapist and the parents whenever possible. Of course, and that they are able to adapt, play, and language modeling to benefit those present with goals. The sibling team will be that language model throughout their day when they are together. That the sibling team becomes comfortable with providing feedback or repetition to their language learner naturally within their day, much the same way we hope the family can. And in turn, that child with hearing loss responds as well to the parents as they do to the siblings, because that sibling team expects a response that they can understand just as they would anybody else in the house. And one of my more important pieces is when you have the whole sibling team and the whole house engaged, like we want the primary caregiver to be, that those siblings are very active contributors to that language-rich environment in the home, and that we're hoping the primary caregiver is giving a lot of opportunities, and the end result being incidental hearing as well as what's directed to the child. And that incidental hearing is that there is language going on all day, and the child is picking up language even when it is not directed specifically to them. Very important piece.
So language learning and leveraging the leader of the pack, at least that was the case in our house. How many of you have heard about the term birth order theory? That was a relatively new thing to me until we started getting started on this presentation. And it suggests that the sequence in which a child is born within the family, from the firstborn to the youngest and every position in between, shapes their personality and their behavior. In our family, the Abbott family, the birth order theory certainly described our two children. Our first child, Mary Claire, was very much the leader of the pack, very much large and in charge of that sibling relationship. And we know that is reality in many situations where the oldest child is in charge of what's going on. So how do we adapt that situation to meet the younger child's needs? In our family, Mary Claire was very much in charge of sibling activities, and this started from the moment we brought Bridie home. She was a natural leader and very in charge of what was going on. For example, we're going to read this book right now. We're going to pretend to cook this meal. We're going to dress up in this way and sing this song. Very, very older sister-esque. Bridie was the youngest child, and for a long time, very satisfied doing whatever it was Mary Claire wanted to do, especially at this young age. So when we began with EI, there was a lot of emphasis into giving Bridie a chance to be the leader, Bridie a chance to speak first, especially in conversations. And Mary Claire, slowly but surely, followed our lead. And she did need some coaching, and we needed some coaching too. She started to watch the way that we were interacting with Bridie differently, the way we played and read with her differently, the way we disciplined differently. And eventually we saw things within these two siblings shift. And this is an example, one of many, that demonstrates that shift. For example, here's a day where we went to Grandma's house to give her a gift. And previously, when Mary Claire was very large and in charge, she would be talking and translating for her sister. And Bridie would just be sitting quite content on the other side. In this situation, things you can see are very different. With intentionality, we were able to help Mary Claire support her sister's goals by showing her a new way of participating in life with Bridie. With coaching, Mary Claire learned to wait and to watch and to support her little sister as she was working through practicing her new skills. Was this easy? Absolutely not. Did we stumble and fall through this process? We absolutely did. But at the end of the day, with lots of practice and lots of praise, the shift did happen. And it offered Bridie the time and the space that she needed to practice these new skills.
So here's where I remembered we put this at the end.
Yep, no problem.
This is the one I went over, living that dream and what it looks like. I
Uh-huh.
apologize. We did move it to the end of the presentation because it kind of wraps up. And it's like what I had said. What does it look like? We want those siblings to be a part of therapy. We want that and to be the providers of that therapy naturally within their day. We want those language models throughout the day. We want them comfortable with providing feedback and repetition. And then that child responds to everybody in the home in the same way as they do the primary caregiver, or in some places when the child really responds best to the therapist, we want it to be naturally with everybody in the home. And I just had put in that slide about incidental hearing, one of the important hallmarks in that language can't always be directed to the child. We put them in the hot seat enough. It needs to come naturally, and they're overhearing and they're listening because everybody who comes into the home, parents, grandparents, cousins, are part of the process and providing naturally language rich models all day long.
So this was an aha moment, I think, for both of us walking in a year ago when we were putting this presentation together, and me remembering our family's experience and realizing that it didn't just happen naturally. It did happen with some planning and some intention. So with that, we have some time to answer questions or comments. We can open that up. I'll take us off of screen sharing. These are our citations, and these will be available in the presentation that can be shared after this. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if we have any questions. You're also welcome, I think, to take yourself off of mute if you'd prefer to do that versus typing in a chat. Any thoughts on not making it a burden for the sibling? That is a great question and an important one.
So what we're hoping, like just like with any other child in your home, that language and kind of those models are happening organically, that we're working together like a team. You know, I'd mentioned sharing goals. The older or younger sibling gets mad because the child with hearing loss is not taking turns, or they don't know how to take turns yet, or they don't have the language to understand it. So making it like, well, let's see if we can all figure out how we can show older brother, younger brother, how to participate and take turns. You can do little numbers. There's all kinds of little games your therapist could help you with, where we can kind of work as a team, but we're not putting it on him as a burden. I think most of them, it's kind of team sharing. What is it that you can't understand? He's trying to tell you something. Let's see what we can work on so that you can understand what he's asking you.
I think, in my opinion, it's not so much adding a responsibility to the sibling as it is redefining the role and coaching them to interact in a different way. And I can only use our family as an example. One of the things that we really needed Mary Claire to change was answering questions for her sister or translating for her sister. And so we would model that when Bridie would say something, and I would normally jump in, or she would jump in, or her father would jump in, and we would model what it looks like to wait and give her a chance to think through her answer and then respond, even if it was incorrectly. And so that's one of the ways that I think we inadvertently, but positively, didn't put the burden on Mary Claire, but rather changed how we went about daily life with all four of us in the family.
And sometimes I've had older brothers, sometimes when I had a young boy, even a girl, and I kind of put to them something we're working on, and I'll go, can you think of a way we can do whatever it is we're trying to do that we could have fun making this sound? And a lot of times they love to have that power of, oh, I'm the person who gets to come up with something, and we kind of make it a fun activity. Can you think of something we can do? And even if you have to play, what do we call it, the absent-minded professor? I'm not sure how to do this. We want to do where he's going here and putting this in, or whatever the activity is, and see if the older sibling or younger sibling or the cousin or grandma can help you come up with something.
Someone asked if we could tell them what Bridie's up to now.
She's delightful.
So first, I should mention that Bridie is now 18 years old and in college. She is at her first college choice studying kinesiology. And she and Miss Judy right here are besties. And every now and then, Miss Judy will be on that college campus and we'll call her and say, come on, I need to take you out to lunch. Bridie is thriving. Her older sister is thriving, and they are in love with each other until they don't want to be near each other. Very normal sibling relationship. I'm very, very proud of both of my girls, and thrilled that they allow us to use them as an example when we share this story. So thank you.
And Bridie's language is phenomenal. She doesn't miss a thing. She understands college life better than most college students. As the last time I was there and we were talking about, oh, you going here? What are you doing? She said, no more parties. These people are just drinking and not making good choices. And she's got a good head on her shoulders, and I know they should be very proud of her.
Well, it's come up to 2:30. This has been a joy. Thank you so, so much for this invitation.
thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you everyone else who joined, and we'll send that YouTube link out later this week, if not beginning next week. So thank you guys. Have a great day, and Virginia, don't get too hot, and Utah, stay warm.
Thank you so much, you guys. Bye-bye.